Welcome to Class 5 of Inktober. This is where we're going to do our self-evaluation and then continue inking our piece by adding pen. So we're going to go over the rubric today together so you understand exactly how you're going to be graded. It's really important to do a self-evaluation before your piece is due. Let me make that clear. Your piece is not due today. Your piece is a work in progress. Right now, you're looking to do a self-evaluation to see what you can do to improve the quality of your work. So right now, I want you to get out your final piece. I also want you to get out your sketchbook or notebook or paper, whatever you're using to hold your sketches and ideas. So your teacher can pause this if they need to allow you to get those things out, and then we're going to go over the rubric together and do our self-evaluation. All right, so I'm going to continue here. So it has the directions here, but I'm just going to go over this with you. So what you're going to do in your sketchbook is write down Inktober rubric. So you can write down the name of the project and the rubric. So I have it here, like I kind of explained a little bit before. You're not going to write all of this out. What you are going to write is what's in bold. Okay? So for number 1, you would write degree of variety in line quality. And teachers, please feel free to pause at any point that you need to. But this simply, and this is out of 30 points, is how you've varied the line quality of your piece. So remember, you learned about this in that video with the apple and the bananas. Line quality is just simply how thick or thin a line is. So we're looking in this for that 30 points that you have some lines that are thin for 10 points, some lines that are thick for 20 points, and then some lines that go from thin to thick or thick to thin for that last 10 points, which would equal your 30 points. So this is really easy to do. If all of your lines right now are just one quality thin, take that Sharpie, take that pen, whatever you're using, and make some lines that would be thicker to thin. A really good example would be an area that you would typically add some shading. Make that line go from thin to thick back to thin again, where you would have added some shading, and it'll make it look more realistic. It'll make it look more like a form. So give yourself a grade out of 30 right now based on where you think your piece is. Again, remember, this is not the day your piece is due. We are simply doing a self-evaluation to help you improve the quality of your work before it's turned in. Because if we turn a piece in and then we do an evaluation, you have no time to fix it. So we do our self-evaluations before we submit our pieces, so we have time to actually do the things that you need to improve your piece, to be happy with it for yourself, and also improve your grade. All right, so let's move on to number 2, the variety of pen textures, and this is out of 20 points. So we're looking for at least 2 different pen textures that make sense for your piece. Don't force it. If you decide you're doing the whole piece in stippling, like, go for it. If that's just the only thing that's going to work, that's awesome. Like, that's perfectly fine. Just make sure you communicate that with your teacher so they understand that when they're grading your piece. But essentially, we're looking for 2. For example, it could be stippling, cross-hatching, hatching, whatever you decided to do. And it doesn't just have to be the ones that we have listed here in this project. They could be any textures, literally anything. But we're just looking for a little bit of a variety. So that's out of 20. So if you at least have 2, you could give yourself a 20 out of 20. If you just have 1, you could give yourself a 10 out of 20. If you still just have pencil and no pen, give yourself a 0. That's fine. We may get done with this and you may have a 30 out of 100. That is okay. Be honest so that you can really see where you need to improve. All right, number 3 is the uniqueness of subject matter and composition. So this is talking about here how creative your idea and your artwork is. Did you just do the first thing that you thought of? Did you do something just because you thought it'd be easy? Don't lie, I know. Did you copy someone else in class? Or did you really think about something and try to create something that was really cool, that was one of a kind, that hasn't been done before? And I don't want you to feel bad if you did any of those things I just mentioned, because you still have time to change it. Add something else. Change it up. Make it different. Make it your own. And that's going to be out of 10 points. So give yourself a grade out of 10 based on how you feel you did there. Number 4 is going to be the rendering of tight lines. This simply just means how neat your lines are. If it's supposed to be thin, it should be thin. If it's supposed to be like a nice, thick, even line, it should be. So I'm just talking about, sometimes when we sketch things out, it's real like jagged because we're just mapping it out. We're just, throwing down ideas. But when we actually ink it, it should be crisp, clear, neat lines. And again, you can change that by just going in with your pen and just touching those lines up that look jagged. And that's out of 20. And then the last one is degree of form, that it's non-flat. This simply just means how realistic does it look? Does it look 3D? And again, with this kind of piece, we're not looking for like hyperrealism like a photograph. We're just looking that it looks realistic and 3D. And that's out of 20. So take a minute and give yourself a grade out of 100. So you're going to add up what you gave yourself here. Again, this is not your final grade. This is just like a midway self-evaluation. And give yourself a grade out of 100. Teachers, you can pause if you need to allow students to add. And once you get that number out of 100, that's where you are now. And that's where you know where you gave yourself points off that you'll need to change to improve the quality of your work. So you're going to write 2 sentences to summarize what you just did. So you're going to say, right now, I give myself a blank percent. So you're going to take this number and just put it right there and tell me why. For example, let's say my tight lines they're pretty jagged, not very good. So one thing I could say was, right now I give myself let's say it was a 60% because right from the rubric I want to pull evidence because my lines are jagged and I really need to fix those, period. Your next sentence is, I can improve the quality of my piece by. Don't say by finishing because nobody's probably done it at this point. And that would just be super obvious. You want to write something that you're actually going to do to make it better based on the rubric. So I could say something like, I can improve the quality of my piece by going in with my pen and fixing those jagged lines. So notice I said why I gave myself points off here. I gave evidence right from the rubric about the jagged lines, and then I said how I can make it better. So those will just be your 2 sentences. So once you get done with this, you're just going to slide that over to the corner of your desk, grab your project, and continue working with ink, or whatever step you are in the process. But allowing you to have that sketchbook on the side of your desk there allows your teacher's going to come around and check those, and you can be working. You don't have to just wait. But everything's right here, and if you need to read it again, it's right in your project write-up that you're more than welcome to read again. But I hope that helped you understand the rubric. Tomorrow or next class, depending on what your schedule looks like at your school, we'll be working on class 6 until completion. So I will see you then. You're doing an awesome job. I can tell just by what your teachers are wanting for you. So I'm super, super excited to see some results. And I will see you next class.